Hello, everybody. Talking to myself. Hi, John Boy and Jim Shamoon and Sandra. Hope y'all are doing okay. Jim, can you hear me? Wave if you can hear me. Ah, there you are. Trying to accept your request, Jim.
Can you see me?
I can see you very clearly.
Excellent.
Can you see me?
Oh, yes.
Can you hear me clearly?
Oh, yes.
All right. How are you doing today?
I'm all right. Been a bit cold today, though.
Yeah?
Well, in
Well,
my
it's been a bit of an on and off on my side.
look,
Is this
looking,
your
looking,
first?
looking
Sorry?
good. You're
Oh,
looking good.
thank you, Jim. Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. So, is this your first Instagram live session ever?
Oh, yes.
How are you feeling about it?
Old.
Don't worry. This thing is meant to accommodate everyone, doesn't discriminate against age or whatever. You'll do well. I'm excited to have you here today, and clearly lots of people are logging in, and it's only been a minute or so. Thank you so much, guys, for joining us. I can see Rodrigo here. I can also see Julissa and Karungari. Hi, everybody. Hope you all are doing well. I am fantastic. Happy to be seeing you today. I know there's been a bit of changes since the last time you all saw me, and you probably saw me on Zoom, but this time we decided to end the year on a different note. We decided to bring Zoom Room here on Instagram, and my first guest on Instagram Live is Jim Shamoon. Jim, would you mind saying hi to our listeners today and our watchers?
Hello, everybody. Glad to be here.
That's it.
I, what else do you want me to say?
It's okay, we can just dive right into it. Today I wanted us to focus on film in Kenya and especially the history of film in Kenya. When we last spoke, you gave me some shocking facts. And one of them was the fact that ever since we gained independence and a film industry or film sector was established in Kenya, we haven't made any profits from our films. Did I get that right?
No, that's absolutely right. I mean, there are people who make money from film, but they are the River Road guys who make very cheap films. So making a profit on very cheap films is not that difficult. And what they do is that they make, you know, basically local language films. They'll do a film in Kikuyu, in Luo, in Kalenjin, whatever. And then they'll put them on flash drives and rush across the country, putting them on little video kiosks where they will be shown. And they managed to make like maybe a few 100,000 shillings per movie. But when you go, and these guys' budget is only like 400,000 or 500,000 shillings for an expensive movie. But if you go mainstream and you look at the established people, Jane Monene, Catherine Muigai, Bob Nyanja, Martin Munywa, Epi Matere, Alison Gibuini. These are all people who, at some time or another, have been funded to make movies, and they have made the movies, but they have never ever seen a profit from it. And most of these movies, the large budget ones, which is when I say large budget, I mean large budget for Kenyan local film producers, which should be like 20, 30 million shillings, maybe even 40. But that's a very, very small budget for a real film. Something like Rugged Priest, I think, was about 20 million, and that was Bob Nyanja and Martin Munya being DOP, and they had an international actor, well, who lives here or lived here at the time. But movies like that, or J.D. Karago's movies like, Big Daddy and such like, they were all funded by people like the Ford Foundation, and they never even earned back the money that it cost to make them. And the private ones that have been done by people's own money have mostly shown a loss. The famous ones that we've all heard about is people like Tosh Gitonga's Nairobi Half-Life,
Yeah.
and the one fine day film segment, which is a whole bunch of movies which was done by the Germans. So although they are actually publicized as Kenyan films, but they're owned by the Germans and they're run by the Germans. And even those movies have never made money because the budget for those have been like 70, 80, 90 million shillings. So making that much money is not going to be easy.
Yeah, I get that. I get that. Hey guys, I'm seeing more of you are joining in. For those who do not know our guest today, this is Jim Shamoon, and he is the managing director, Blue Sky Films. Blue Sky Films is a Kenyan film production company that has produced some of the best international films and Hollywood films, such as The Tomb Raider, Lara Croft, The Constant Gardener. I don't know if most of you have watched these films, but very popular ones including The Lion King. You may not have known this, but they were shot in Kenya, and Blue Sky Films was the production company behind that. So feel free to ask Jim Shamoon any questions you may have. Just type them here and I'll read them out to him. But for those that have joined us late, I said that I'd like us to focus on the history of film in Kenya and how things have been ever since the industry was established up until now. So Jim says that we do not make any money from the films that we make, and that is mostly because of the River Road moguls. So Jim, let me ask, these people on River Road that profit from these films, what they do, is it legal?
Many of them actually don't even bother getting a film license, and they do what we call commando shooting. They just
Yeah.
go around town. Somebody's watching out in case Kanjo is coming, and they shoot quickly. And but most of the time they will end up shooting like just outside Nairobi, in villages and small towns where nobody's going to bother them. And yeah, they actually, that they are basically the future of film in Kenya,
How
because
so?
these are people who have used their own money, bought a very cheap camera, or maybe not such a cheap one, but borrowed money from investors. This is how most of them operate, is that they go and borrow like 300,000-400,000 shillings. Then they shoot the movie, then they make maybe 600,000 or 700,000 shillings. So they go and give that money back plus an extra profit on top. And then they, put together the next movie, then they go and borrow some more money. And this is really how filmmaking developed around the world. We look down at them because many of them have not been to school and stuff, but they're building an industry of themselves out there, which is very serious.
And where do these River Road moguls come from? Would you say that a lot of them are students from film schools who haven't successfully managed to find jobs out here?
Some of them are.
Yeah.
Well, actually, these days, many of them are, because film schools and video colleges and stuff, are everywhere. So many people have managed to put some money together and gone for some lessons of some sort. We don't actually have a real film school in this country, although there is one institution that calls itself the film school, the Kenya Film School, which is run
Yeah.
by the government. But a real film school would be something totally different. These people, some of them are actually an older generation, and some of them are very, very young. And they're finding their way around in a digital place. Um, Obviously, there are things that government could do to make it easier for them, but it doesn't seem to be on top of it. But funnily enough, I mean, there are two associations that operate in this Riverwood environment, and one is the third force, and the other one is the Riverwood Association or whatever they call it, which is actually I think the person running that is actually Moniki Mageria, who does those shows on TV, and the third force used to be run by Mburu Kimani. He used to do the Kikuyu movies like 10 years ago. And these guys have really pushed, the envelope much further away. I think John Karanja is another one who is really pushing things. He runs the Dairy Village film project, and they train local people in the area to become filmmakers, and they have done some amazing things as well. But again, big money is not going to come like that.
Before I ask how big money is going to come about, you said that there are ways that the government can help the process of film production. Could you tell us some of these ways?
Some of the things that we've been fighting for is, for example, Kenyans to let's say if my daughter, who is 17, get a film agent's license, right, which I think is about 15,000. Then she needs to get a film license, which is about 10K, plus an extra 1,000 shillings per day for making a film, right? Then she has to go to Nairobi City Council and get a license. She wants to shoot in Uhuru Park. She has to talk to the Parks Department and get a license for them. And what we are saying is that there is no reason why Kenyans making content for Kenyan consumption, for Kenyans, should have to go and get these expensive licenses. I mean, if you're in any other country, like in Europe or whatever, you just pick up a camera and start shooting what you want, unless it's a really big shoot. So we are trying to get them to a position where government can just have a platform on the internet where you can just go, put in your name, say what you're shooting, where you're shooting, get a license, print it out, and go and shoot it. Because trying to hammer kids with 30,000-40,000 shillings before they even start shooting something is not the way to encourage filmmaking in the country.
That's true. Okay,
The other thing that we have,
sorry to
sorry,
interrupt
the other
you.
thing that we are doing is that we are pushing for, when foreign films come to Kenya, which is what I do. Yeah, when these foreign films come, they come with very expert and experienced crew, and we are pushing for the film commission to set up a fund so that when we are shooting these, we can actually take Kenyans, young Kenyans who show promise, who can then come and work with us on these movies. Because normally a producer is not going to agree to pay for people who are actually not going to contribute to the quality of the film. But if I go to a producer and say, well, I've got all these extra people, which you don't have to pay for, the Kenyan Film Commission is going to pay for them. Because, if you're shooting out in Amboseli, you've got, just the room is costing you 10,000 shillings a night. Yeah. So, the Film Commission will pay their accommodation, their food, their transport, and they could come and get some international experience working with some very expert crew. Like when we did Tomb Raider, for example, we were working with Pinewood Studios, and that is the crew that shoots James Bond.
So who had to facilitate all of this was, just walk us through that process. Who facilitated the funding for shooting films at Blue Sky Films?
Nobody funds us. We are basically mercenaries. We if you are a big producer overseas and you have a script that can possibly be shot in Kenya, then what you will do is you will call other producers and say, by the way, when you shot in Kenya, who did you deal with? And nearly always the answer is Blue Sky Films. So what happens then is that this producer picks up a phone and calls me and he says, by the way, I've got this movie I want to shoot in Kenya. What's involved? And I said, well, why don't you send me your script and I can suggest some locations and such like, right? And in the meantime, here is how we film in the country. And I tell him about the crew that is available, which is good and reliable, the equipment that is available and what it costs. The people that they need to bring, the people they do not need to bring, how to set up bank accounts, how to get permissions, how to negotiate with locations and even county councils, how to talk to the police and get armorers and weapons, how to talk to the mining people and get permission to have dynamite and explosives, and so on. How to use children in a movie, for example. If you want to use a child in a movie, you need a letter from the district education officer. You need a letter from the headmaster stating that the child's education will not be affected. Right? You need a parent or guardian on set all the time. You need to make sure that food and water is available to the children and toilets at all times, and so on. There are many safety. Also, there's many health and safety things that you have to use. There's also security involved. And don't forget, now with COVID, for example, there is the Screen Actors Guild of America protocols that tell you how you have to set up a set. Everybody needs to be tested before they come on the location. And then they need to be tested again after 3 days before they can mingle with the people who are already working. When we did the last film, Endangered Species, we paid, by the time we finished, we had spent 12 or 13 million shillings on testing alone.
Okay, that's a long way.
It is indeed. Sorry, my phone was ringing.
That's all right. So,
let me put everything on silent here.
That's okay.
Sorry about that.
No problem, Jim. So all these safety measures, and are these requirements for shooting films in Kenya, and are they applied by local film productions, or is it just protocol at Blue Sky Films? Does the law require local filmmakers to do all this?
I think local filmmakers have to follow Kenyan protocols, which the Kenya Film Commission will give you and say, if you're shooting, you need to take the following precautions. The thing with us is that when we're using international actors, then these actors are members of the Screen Actors Guild. And the Screen Actors Guild has published their own requirements during COVID. So we have to follow those. If we have European actors or crew, then we also have to use EU protocols. And then while we are using all of these, we also have to use Kenyan protocols. The law is very strict with filming, and because then, for example, I'll tell you something else that's very different from us. Is that if you want to shoot with any studio or any big producer in the States, you have to fill out a form, and it's called the corruption form. Yeah, and it guarantees it guarantees that your company will not indulge in any form of corruption, bribe giving, breaking of rules, etc., while you are shooting this movie. And then you have to answer questions. Does anybody in your company have any business dealings with government, with anybody in government? Does anybody in your company have a relative, a close relative, who works for government, and so on? right? And if any of these, you
Yes.
have yes at any of these questions, you're going to be disqualified automatically.
Okay, those are very strict measures that you take. And I feel like if they could be applicable to local filmmakers, then we'd be moving a lot faster than we currently are. Though the film industry has progressed over the last couple of years, and that's something to be proud of. So filmmakers are trying to do a really good job. But what about our consumers, our audience? I have noticed that the movie-going culture in Kenya is not that good. And guys, not so fun fact, did you know that there are less than 30 functional movie cinemas in Kenya? How many are there exactly, Jim?
I think there was last year there was 26 film screens.
26 in the entire country. Wow. That's a bit shocking. So is that part of the reason why we don't make any money from the films that we make as local filmmakers?
It's part of the reason. I mean,
Yeah,
South Africa has 1,800 and something film screens. They have the same
that
population.
difference is way too big.
You know,
Because
if you
when they make films, they have an audience that's ready, that's waiting to watch those films. Unlike us, we have to fight a different fight.
well, they're not doing that well, by the way. Their movies are not being watched by their people. So the movies that they're shooting in South Africa are like, are international films. Their local film structure is, although they even won an Oscar for the foreign language film for Sotsi, but their local filming production is not really better than ours.
Really?
Yeah.
I see South African films and I get blown away because I think, man, I think they're way, way much ahead compared to us in terms of
Okay,
the, uh-huh,
they have two advantages over us, right? They have a
okay,
very large crew base, very
crew.
large. Now, I'll tell you why that is. Okay, right
Mm-hmm,
now, when you go outside in Europe, yeah, it is snowing or it's very cold. Okay,
mm-hmm.
now Christmas is over and done with. They've got everything done with Christmas. What they're trying to get together now is the spring collections, the new cars, the perfumes, the dresses, the shoes, the electronics, everything that will come out next year's models.
Mm-hmm.
So those are all being prepared as we speak.
Mm-hmm.
But what they do not have for that is they do not have visual advertisement. They do not have adverts. So what they will do is that they need now a place where the sun is shining,
Mm-hmm.
where there are as many white actors and extras as you need, where the
Ah,
architecture is very European. They're on the same time zone and they speak English, sort of, right? This is Cape Town.
yes.
So if you go to Cape Town right now, it will be full of production crews from Europe shooting commercials. As a result of
Okay.
this, they have a huge crew base in South Africa. They also have things that we do not have. They have good directors, they have good DOPs. They have huge stores of equipment, lighting and grip and generators and everything. So yeah, they can make better films than us, but they don't. For the same reason, there's no money.
But if there's so much income that's being generated from foreign films in their country, then how come there's no money that goes back into the filmmakers' bank accounts for them to finance their own films?
Because the people who are doing the foreign films are not the people who are making the local content. Don't forget, South Africa is an extremely rich country in certain ways. They control the world's gold, the world's diamonds, the world's, so many other things.
Hmm.
They even have welfare. When you're a South African, you don't have work, you get money from the government.
Man, I really expected something different from them. It seemed like they were living the good life while we're out here struggling. So it's a bit sad that we're going through the same situation. Is that the same for Nigeria?
Nigeria is in a much worse position.
Uh-huh.
Nigeria is probably Africa's largest oil producer, if you know, maybe the second largest, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
They have let all aspects of their country down completely. They have huge amounts of money that go into filmmaking.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem with them, they suffer the same thing we suffer here. Somebody can make a good Nollywood film tomorrow, and he can show it in Nigeria and he can make some very quick money. But by next week, somebody is going to have pirated it and is selling it in South Africa. Yeah.
Man, that's horrifying.
Yeah, it's not funny, really. They really suffer. But
Well,
they don't have the skill level that we have, by the way.
yeah.
You know, in Nigeria, again, they're like Riverwood. And there are some producers who are making bigger movies now, but most of their movies are very, very low budgets. And but we have a crew base here of people who have worked with the best in the world. So we have lighting people, grip people, art department people, production designers, wardrobe, makeup, stunt coordinators, and all these sort of things. We have them here, and they have worked on international films. Right? Nigeria doesn't have any of these. There are no international films shot in Nigeria.
You learn something new every day. Okay, the session is going on really well. A lot more people are joining, and I can see that we have Adam Newtsky Wolf in the house. Are you familiar with Adam, Jim?
No, sorry.
He's an award-winning director, and he's directed the show Crime and Justice. It's on Showmax, and people are going crazy about it here because it is very well put together. So sorry, Adam is in the house, and that is quite an honor. Thank you so much, guys, for your participation. I hope you are enjoying discussion that far, and it's really unfortunate that we're running out of time just as things are getting heated up. So allow me to read some of the comments from the audience. Silver Plata says the filmmaking in Kenya is growing thanks to the likes of Ellah Maina, Daddy Mato, and Pascal Tokodi. That's very kind of you. Thank you. Uh, Brianna is happy to be part of the session, Jim. She says that what you are telling us is mind-blowing. You're dropping facts here, and she guesses it's up to us to step it up and make a change. Yes, Brianna, that's very true. So I think we have lots of actors on the platform right now, and I'd like to ask one question that everyone is always asking me in my DMs. So people are passionate about filmmaking, and everybody thinks they can be an actor, or it's a good place to start off. So they're always asking me for advice, and I'm really just winging it. Most of the time I have no clue what I'm doing. So Jim, could you help us out here? What advice do you have for the actors in the building that could help them get started off, that could help them just get into the industry? Can you tell us a thing or two, Jim?
Well, I can. First, let me just backtrack a bit about the South African film industry since Adam is here.
Mm-hmm.
uh,
Yeah.
what it is that what they do really, really well, thanks
Uh-huh.
to Mnet, yeah,
Uh-huh.
is that they can do amazing TV shows. Amazing
Okay.
from to our level, not really to the international level out there, although they have done some.
To the
But
African
but
level.
they but Mnet Supersport and these guys have gotten together, and they have actually created teams that can actually do content for television for Africa very very competently. Okay. Now back to actors. You know,
Uh-huh.
I get called up many times a week by people who get my number off the internet, which there, by the way, is there not for you guys, it's there for my clients. Okay.
I think you should
And
include that somewhere in your bio.
And what happens, right, is that people always call me up, and there's usually three types of people who call me up, right? One, the most popular people call me are the script writers who have got the best script in the world, and I want you to make my movie. Guys, I don't do that. Okay. The second people who always call me up are people who have just finished education. They want internships and attachments and whatever else. But we are not working all the time. We only work when we have a job. So I can take as many interns as you like, and they're going to come in my office and they're just going to sit there, for the next month or two, or maybe three, until some job comes. So putting you in my office as an intern is a total waste of time. Yeah, because you're not going to learn anything. There's nobody there, by the way. Okay. And the third people who call me is always actors. They'll say, I want to act in one of your shows, A, B, C, D. Okay. What happens with any movie is that the director is going to say, here is a list of characters that I need. And we will call our casting agency and we will say, here is the list of characters that we want. Can you go find them? Right? So casting agencies are the guys who have got the pictures, the statistics, the experience, the bio, the profile for anybody who is registered with them. Right?
Yeah.
There are people that we have hired, like for example, the boy in the boy who harnessed the wind. He had never acted before, and he was just a schoolboy. But he got the job. He did a fantastic job with it. And he's now in a full scholarship in South Africa, thanks to the movie.
Amazing.
Yeah, it is. But he was the casting agent saw him and said, that's what I'm looking for. Yeah. There are good casting agents who know what people like us are going to want. Very important stuff. There is no shortcuts to this. We don't employ actors. We don't even talk to actors. We are presented with actors. Okay, I've picked this one, and this one. And then we will go and negotiate if they're kids with their parents, if they're grown-ups with them, get the release form signed, all that sort of thing. That's our job. But we, production houses don't go looking for cast. I know you guys are really struggling to get jobs. Yeah. And but the other thing is that there is no real acting school in this country.
So what do we do about
where
that as
did you
actors?
learn
Where
acting?
do we harness our skills from?
Well, most of the serious actors that have come out through the National Theatre, Donovan Mole Theatre, from plays and whatever. But a real acting school with a real, with an internationally accredited actor who can teach acting, that would be something very special. Our problem is that we are going to pick up some actor who's been on Makutano Junction or something, and he's going to start teaching you acting. That is not the same thing.
It's really not. But unfortunately, we work
school.
with what we have.
We do, but it's not enough. We don't have acting school. We don't have training for stunts and stunt coordinators. We don't have training for good production designers and art directors and prop masters. Even hair and makeup, we have to take people from other industries and then train them in what we do. Craft services, catering for film, privacy, chaperones. There is a huge market for chaperones. People come from other countries. We have to give them somebody to take them around shopping. This person earns money, and you have to actually call our friends and say, can you take so and so? Here's Julia Roberts. Can you take her shopping? Yeah.
Hey, man, that's even a story for another day. I feel like we could talk about this all day, but if we do not have any acting schools, what can we do in the meantime to practice? Because we can't just give up. So as an actor, I have my acting skills and I want to grow them So do I create my own content? Because producers out here are not going to hire me if I don't know, if I have nothing, they're not going to help me start from scratch, you know? So what can we do? Because just anything about that, Jim, what can we do?
I think it does. If you honing your skills is not, you can't tie that up with money. The problem that we have is that people who want to break into film, whether they're actors or grapes or whatever, are generally
Mm-hmm.
quite broke to start with, and it's not easy for them to give away their skills. But the thing is that if you get attachment or internship somewhere, it's going to be the same. You're still going to be very broke.
Yeah.
So one of the things
Yeah.
that that you guys should really do is get together, form small acting groups, and just do small programs, whether it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, half an hour.
Mm-hmm.
Just put stuff together with whatever you've got. Just make your own stories. Act for your neighborhood. You know, keep honing your
Yeah.
skills. And of course, you've got YouTube. And if you want to train yourself on YouTube as an actor, it's not going to be very good. But if there is a group of
Mm-hmm.
you, when you've got critical people who are watching what is being shown to you, and then what you're doing, and they're also actors, right? Then you can hone
Mm-hmm.
each other's skills while also
Yeah.
downloading, videos which teach you what acting is all about. It's not the best, but as you
Okay.
said, it's what we have.
Do whatever you can.
Yep.
Okay, thank you very much, Jim, for your time. I'm afraid, guys, our time is up, but Victor Agali is asking me to post this video on the platform once the live session is over. So I'm going to do that for anyone who has missed the initial stages of this session. You can find it, I'll post it after the session. So before we close, let me ask you one last question. What casting agencies does Blue Sky Films work with?
I actually don't know.
Whoa. Is it just random, or do you work with a particular
No, we
group,
have
or do you really have no clue?
no, no. We have. I think there's one particular one and another one that we use sometimes. What their names
Mm-hmm.
are, I have no idea because that's
Mm-hmm.
my producer and my production manager and those guys deal with these things.
Okay. That's all
Yeah,
right. So you had it
I
straight from the man, guys. Uh-huh.
now I was just about to say hiyo kazi niliwacha kitambo.
Usijali, tutajing'ang'ania. The information you've given us tayari imetosha, tunaweza ng'ang'ana na hiyo. But we really appreciate having you here. It has been a very productive session, Jim. And tutang'ang'ana tu. By the way, guys, Jim Shamoon alianza mbali sana. Jim Shamoon ni msee wa Isli. So wasee wa Isli, shout out to all of you. You have the potential to become a great man like Jim Shamoon here. So make sure mwende mtafute films za Blue Sky Films. Do your research on Blue Sky Films because I'm sure there's a lot more you can learn. They shot The Boy Who Harnessed the Wind, and it's on Netflix. You can get it there. There's Tomb Raider, kuna Constant Gardener, kuna films mingi. So you guys do your research about that. Create your own content. When you're mnashindanga mkiniuliza how to get started as an actor, do auditions, try to get yourself into any film production or plays, create your own content, 5 to 10 minutes. Meambiwa msi waste your time with feature films. Tengenezeni ndogo ndogo and let people know that you exist and you have content that you're ready to show them. Entertain your family, entertain your friends, and that way you can build up and finally entertain the country one day. So thank you very much. Signing off, Jim. Uh, Once more, thank you very much for having us.
My
Oh,
pleasure.
sorry. Thank you very much for coming to the session and imparting your knowledge on us. So I wish you a very good one. And give us opportunities to work with Blue Sky Film. Ile siku mtakuwa back in production, let us know. Because as much as unasema interns hawata benefit sana from working at your office, guys, did you know that Lupita Nyong'o, she got one of the first jobs she ever got in film in Kenya was at Blue Sky Films. she was just an intern there or a production assistant. So who knows? Hata unaweza angukia upate that your life has changed like that. Rodrigo says Endangered Species is the most recent production by Blue Sky Films, and it's on
It
YouTube.
is.
So guys, make sure you check it out, right? Okay, thank you very much. Jim, you have yourself a good night, and everyone else, asanteni sana kwa kujoin. It has been true. Good night, everyone.
Good night.